Gold Black Live. It's hard to believe, Trent, but it is October the 2nd, and glad to have you on the show. Trent Johnson joins us. A lot more than just Trent is my agent. He's about as active a community member as you're going to find, but also has a keen observation of seeing football being played from an from an official standpoint. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in segment 1. Also, segment 2 today will be Tom Dienhart and Brian Newbert. We'll talk everything Purdue sports. Segment 3, Dave Revson will join us. Want to thank our sponsors. And, of course, that would first and foremost be State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. Hilton Garden Inn, Tara Mason and the good folks right across the street from Trent at Hilton Garden Inn. When tomorrow's a big day, State HGI tonight. And, of course, Triple X not far down the way from where Trent is. At Purdue tradition, I should say, since 1929. Trent, which game? I always ask you this question. We talk about the show, but what game do you have tonight?
Yeah, we were heading to Logansport tonight. Originally, we were signed up Logansport versus Kokomo. And about 10 minutes ago, I got an email saying that Kokomo had some COVID issues. And so we have a new opponent. Instead of starting at 7 at Logansport, we're going to go 7:30 to allow Central Noble to make the drive down from Albion, Indiana, to play the Berries. So 7:30 kick at Logansport tonight.
Yeah, and again, that is the definition of the COVID era, I suppose, is that we have no choice but to be flexible, and all this planning you've done from a business perspective, from a life perspective, we don't do that much anymore.
You just don't know from week to week. We've been very fortunate. Our crew every week has had a game, with the exception of the scrimmage in week 1. We were supposed to head up to North White, where they were going to play Rensselaer. Neither team was healthy enough, not from a COVID standpoint, but just from a overall health standpoint. And they said, why take a chance? So our scrimmage got canceled. But other than that, we've been going every week since August 14th. So that's been fun.
Well, tell me about some of the precautions. And I don't know whether you have a little bit of a slow internet connection because you're a little bit pixelated. I don't know if you can change that, but if not, we're hearing you just fine here. So don't sweat it too much. But my question is respect to what you've had to do from an official standpoint. I know it's high school football, but what precautions have you had to make this work the way that, from a safety standpoint, from a health standpoint, what precautions do you do on a weekly basis that you weren't doing last year at this time?
Yeah, so it has been a little bit of an adjustment with some, when we first started this season, I would have guessed about 2 or 3 weeks in and we'd be shut down. This is my 36th football season, a referee in high school football. So I'm thrilled to report we're still playing, and I'm confident the IHSAA is committed to getting the season to the state championship games. But a few things we're doing different. I'm carrying sanitizer in my pocket now, sanitizing frequently. When we meet with the coaches pre-game, we wear a mask. We are not wearing masks during the game. Also ordered one of these handheld whistles that don't work worth a darn. So my original thought was we would use the handheld, but you can't hear them. They're not loud enough. So going with the regular whistle. Also during the game, during the pre-game, instead of meeting with captains, we are now meeting with coaches and doing the toss, getting all the preliminary stuff out of the way. And at the captain's meeting right before kickoff, the mock toss, if you will, everything's already been decided. No shaking of hands between players, and try and keep our distance during that mock toss. I'm a white hat, the referee, so I'm in the middle of the field. My wing guys, when they talk to a coach, they wear a buff, will pull their buff up over their nose and mouth for some protection there. Coaches have been excellent about keeping their masks on, and we just officiate football. It's been fantastic.
What with respect to, and again, maybe, and I know you're close to the college game because you are not only a fan but an observer, but also do some official duties for basketball. But tell me about and for football too. You're on the chain gang, that's right. So
Yep.
At Ross-Ade Stadium. But tell me what you have heard, or if you've heard anything yet about what your role might be for Purdue games this year, and how they're going to administrate that, or is that still to be determined?
Well, I can tell you before the season was shut down initially, I can tell you our locker room was going to be expanded. We dress in the garage there, just underneath the stadium.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get a bigger space in Mackey Arena to congregate, keep our stuff, that sort of thing. I was told the officials would have no more than a 5-hour drive to their game site. So they would not be expected to be there the night before as they are today or in years past. And actually, I heard they would actually come dressed to the game. So
yeah,
like working a junior high school football game and coming dressed. But they will, from what I understand, be required to use the handheld whistle, and they will be, as much as possible, required to wear the mask. Also, I was told, and I expect this for us moving forward as we show up as part of the chain gang and game day management, will be probably tested that morning, is my expectation as well. The officials will be tested as well. If they have a positive case, they'll be told to get back in their car and head back home. They're either going to work short, or they will have enough alternate officials in the area or on standby. I don't know how far down the pecking order they'll go. My son Cody works the Heartland Conference. That's quite a ways from the Big Ten, and their season is not going to start till February 27th. Burr. So, yeah, talk about spring football. Holy mackerel, he better get his long johns out. So, but I don't know how far down the order they'll go. Probably never get to him, which is fine. But I expect there may be some cases where Big Ten football is working short an official or two. They always have one alternate on site game day anyway.
Yeah.
So, testing that morning with the 15-minute test or hour test, however long. So we got a plan to be there early, is my expectation. Wear a mask on the sideline as part of the chain gang at all times. And then probably leave dressed, come dressed, which we pretty much do. The officials don't, obviously, but get in and out as quick as possible is the expectation.
It's going to be interesting because this is one of those deals where you're going to be able to, you're going to be one of the few people that will actually witness these games. I mean, we're going to all watch them. We don't even know from a media standpoint. I'm assuming that we'll have at least access in the press box, and I work in the radio booth and assume I'll have some access, but we really don't know yet. It's just really going to be kind of historic. I mean, can you imagine the fact that you're going to be looking up, Purdue's going to be playing Iowa with Kirk Ferentz on one sideline and Jeff Brown on the other, and virtually no fans in the stand. There'll be a few because you're going to have friends and family, but it's really going to be a surreal deal.
Right, and that brand new scoreboard blaring, and hopefully they turn the volume down just a little bit with no fans there. But I just can't imagine what walking into that stadium is going to be like for that Iowa game, and 100, 200 people there, friends and family, maybe 500 people there. It's going to be different, that's for sure.
Yeah, and yet it is, like you said, and we've talked about, it's all about adjustment and being able to deal with the hand we're dealt, and that's kind of going to be the MO for this season. I think without question, that ability to be able to thrive in that environment. I know there's been a lot of talks, and I don't even quite understand, and maybe I don't mean to, the electric whistle versus the handheld whistle. Am I missing something, or can you explain that difference, and why have there been controversy over the electric whistle, I think, in the NFL, but I'm not sure exactly what that deal has been.
Yeah, the reason they've gone to the handheld is, when you blow that whistle, there's a little bit of spit or saliva that it would emit. But the handheld, you just can't hear it.
Okay,
I don't want to. Yeah, it's just not loud enough, and certainly when no fans there will help that to some degree. But I know guys that referee in the NFL, and they don't like it at all. You just can't hear it.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Obviously, when you got these in the NFL, but also in college football, where you have these 260-pound linebackers running at people, and you're trying to stop play at an instant. That I'm sure is a huge challenge from that standpoint. One of your other roles, obviously, is being on the being involved with men's and women's basketball and the women's basketball scorecard or score bench, I should say. Tell me you're around a lot of coaches, high school coaches, college coaches, men's and women's. What's a common denominator of ones that you think the ones that are successful? The teams win, I get that, but is there an intangible, you understand management and business and how to conduct yourself, but what is that concept? You see a common thread among both the men's and women's coaches that kind of separate them?
I think, and from an official standpoint, the ones that are having the success are the map painters. They just coach. They don't worry about the officiating and stomp and throw their coat and get excited. Peaks and valleys, just coach, even keeled throughout the whole game. They don't get too up, too down. And that seems to be the common denominator as I stand on the sideline or work the scorer's bench. The ones that just coach seem to be the ones that have the success.
Now, you are on the visitors sideline for football, correct? So is that correct?
So, yes, I have been. So my role changed last year. I think I've got the best job on the chain gang. It allows me to interact with the officials a little more. I am the penalty tracker.
Okay.
So anytime these guys throw a flag, I have to write down who, what, when, where, why, how, accept or declined, offense or defense. So I write down what time on the clock, was it on Purdue or Iowa, which officials threw the flag. They take that after the game and can go back and as they're looking at their film, can go right to the 8-minute and 20-second mark of the first quarter and review that without having to guess where that was at. So I have a list at the end of the game of all their penalties, who threw it, and that's my new role. But in years past, until last year, I've always been on the visitor sideline, which I have loved. Now I'm always with one deep wing, so I start on Purdue's side and end on the visitor side. So I get to see a little bit of both now.
Why do they have you do that on this? Why don't you do that from the press? I mean, it's interesting. Why do you do it from there as opposed to being in the press box, for example? Is there a reason why being on the field when you're making those kind of notations?
There are times I can't hear the old scoreboard. I'm sure that'll change this year. I couldn't hear the number that was announced. So I may have to ask the deep wing and with their radios, they'll radio to the other guy during a break and say, what number was that? And so I can finish writing everything down. Don't tell them that I can do that from the press box. I like being down on the field. Unless it's 25 degrees and rain or Illinois last year. And then the press box might be okay.
That Illinois game was an all-timer and not a very good game for the Boilermakers as well. What tell me about, without speaking out of school, but some of your favorite coaches, opposing coaches, again, just from personalities, or ones that caught your attention of coaches in Ross State Stadium that you really liked or, again, made a real impression on you?
I would say our first opponent coming to town, there's a language issue. I mean, it's amazing. But, I got a great story. When Notre Dame was on one of the last times we played Notre Dame, there's always a priest on the sideline.
Yeah.
And their coach at the time, it's been a while ago, their coach at the time's effing this and effing and screaming and hollering. And we go to a media timeout, and Bob Downing was still on the chain gang at the time. And he goes, I wonder what the priest thinks of their language. And I said, well, I'm going to go ask him. He said, no, you're not. I said, yeah, I'm going to go ask him. So I went out and I asked the priest, I said, Father, can I ask you a question? I said, what do you think of the language that you're here on the sideline during these ball games? And he says, well, the players is kind of heat of the moment. I said, Father, I'm not talking about your players. I'm talking about your coach. And he goes, oh, yeah. I kind of wish you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about. I'm not gonna pin it on him, but I think you're talking. I think Brian Kelly was the head coach the last time the Irish came here, and I'm guessing it might be Brian. It could have been Charlie Weiss as well, I suppose. Either one there would make some sense from that standpoint.
If you're offended by language, the sideline is not the place to be.
Yeah. What kind of guy is? I mean, the last game. So you were on the sideline, Urban Meyer last game when
the Tyler Trent game. Yeah.
And Urban was, I think, kind of under the weather, though. They were talking about his headaches and all that. But what kind of guy is Urban Meyer on the sideline?
He was fantastic. He's great. And I'll tell you another one that I've been on the chain gang about 15 years, and did we play Northwestern at home last year or the year before?
Year before that.
Yeah. Their coach came up to us, thanked everybody on the chain gang. I know you have other places you could be and other things you could be doing. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you giving up your Saturday to be here for us. Thank you. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What a guy.
That's why he's an excellent football coach, and why he's universally respected. And that, of course, being Pat Fitzgerald. I that doesn't surprise me. I just think he's one of those guys. When you watch him on TV, he's what you see is what you get, and I appreciate that story a lot. So that's
Joe Paterno's last year when he was here, I'll bet he didn't say 10 words the whole game.
Yeah.
He just paced up and down the sideline.
Yeah.
Once in a while, he'd holler something at his defensive coordinator, and once in a great while at his offensive coordinator. But I bet it wasn't 10 things the whole game.
Yeah.
Hey, he'd say, hey.
Yeah.
Hey, what are we doing?
Yeah. That was Joe Potts at his best. Hey, Trent, these stories are great, and we will do this again. We thank you for your sponsorship, but we also thank you for all your service to Purdue sports, because it takes a lot of folks to run a football game, and officials and all of that are a big part of it. So have a great rest of the weekend. We look forward to 3 weeks from now when Purdue and Iowa square off, and I'm hoping for you that you'll have a 70-degree day and a late October day in Ross-Ade Stadium.
I hope so. I'm worried about those December dates.
Yeah, I could say December 5th against Nebraska might be a little bit colder. All right, Trent Johnson,
thank you.
We appreciate all he does and always interesting commentary about Purdue sports. We go on to segment 2. Brian Newbert and Tom Dienhart will join me. And then segment 3, Dave Revson and from the Big Tent Network will finish off our show. So again, stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes on Gold and Black Live.